Video games, they've been around for many years and will be here for many more to come, with the most common genre being violence. Let's take a look back on the evolution of violence in video games and see whether or not it's a good stress reliever or if it turns you into a psychopath. We start at the very beginning with the first video game ever made, Tennis for Two, developed by William Higginbotham Robert Dvorak, released in October 18th, 1958, with a 6.8 out of 10 star rating on IMDb. The game was multiplayer, with two people playing tennis on a 2D screen. Little did he know that this would make the laziest people on the planet. Then, in 1976, the first ever violent video game was created, Death Race. The objective? To run over people with your car. And after the release of Death Race in 1976, we started seeing violence in video games becoming more common, such as Asteroids, Centipede, Space Invaders, Galaga, and yes, even Pac-Man. And with the evolution of technology came the first 3D video game, which was also the very first 3D violent video game, released in 1974, Maze, otherwise known as Maze War. The objective was to just shoot people. And 16 years later, one of the first ever brutal violent video games was Wolfenstein 3D. That game, you just ran around shooting Nazis. And a year later, the first ever Doom game was released, which in that one, you were a Marine on Mars, killing demons and zombies. And then big games started becoming even better. Although Hotline Miami 2 was released in 2015, they started making a comeback and it was really well done. And here's the segment you probably weren't expecting, LEGO games. You might not consider them to be very brutal, but in one cutscene in LEGO Star Wars 3, your Padawan goes to fight General Grievous by himself and ends up getting killed, his body parts getting thrown across the screen, and at the very end of the cutscene, his legs, with his spine still intact, gets thrown to you and you catch it. As a kid, that was very terrifying to watch. On the next part, military sims.
Hey, so how's the war going for you guys?
I can't wait to go back home and see my mom.
They're actually kind of terrifying and do really simulate what people went through during war. The scariest part is that you don't know where bullets are coming from. There's no hit markers. If you get shot once, that usually means that you're on the ground dead or bleeding out. It can also simulate the traumatic experience that happens to people losing their friends that gets them their PTSD. Next up, we have swarm shooters. These games give you the power to feel free and feel like you're the threat on the battlefield. Completely blowing up massive hordes of enemies or gunning them down with giant machine guns. Whatever you choose, you feel like you have power. Now we move on to medieval games, where these games have a lot of stabbing and a lot of limb removal. They're very fun games, but the amount of gore can sometimes put people off just from the amount of blood you see. As we reach the finale, we get to the next segment, executions. They're meant to make the player feel cool, while also making the kill feel a lot more intimate by getting up close and personal. Different games have different names for these. Doom Eternal has literally kills, Apex Legends has takedowns, and For Honor has executions. But they're not just to make you feel cool or feel intimate, they also have a purpose. Upon successfully completing an execution, you usually get rewarded with some healing. In the final segment of this video, it's virtual reality fighting games, specifically Blade and Sorcery. This game has swords, knives, bows, hammers, axes, and magic just to kill NPCs. With mods, you're able to see their health, but normally you aren't able to do this. This leads to moments where you might keep hitting them until you think they're dead. You can also get up close and personal to deliver a fatal blow to the head with a knife. You're able to remove limbs from bodies, and with the power of mods, you can do stuff like this. This game truly is for psychopaths. Don't ask me why I have it. In conclusion, violent video games definitely can be used to relieve stress. However, the more you need to do just to kill one enemy, especially if that enemy is a human, the more likely you are to be a psychopath. But hey, that shouldn't stop you. Hope you enjoyed the video.